Come on, it's not rocket science. Come on, it's not music theory. Is music theory really rocket science? Maybe you clicked on this video because you're frustrated with your lack of progress in music. Perhaps you're struggling to articulate the sounds in your head. Maybe you just don't feel inspired anymore. Where do you start? What do you focus on to improve? I got some good news for you because in this video, I'm gonna unlock your creativity with the 9 levels of music theory. We'll cover the guitar fretboard, intervals, scales, chords, keys, melody, harmony, rhythm, and even how to read music. Now you can gain access to all of my tabs, courses, and Discord for free. Just hit the Patreon link in the description below. Level 1, when it comes to music theory, where do you start? There's a lot to cover in this topic. So the musical alphabet is really ground zero, and the best way that you can visualize the musical alphabet, which is how we navigate the musical language, is with the piano keyboard. So here you can see we have the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. That's it. There's no H note or Z. And then in between the notes, you have sharp. So if you have a C here, there's a C sharp on the black note before you get to the next note, D. There's 2 places in the musical alphabet where there is a half step instead of a whole step. In other words, there isn't a black note in between. So here, between E and F, there is no black note. And then in between B and C, back to the beginning, there also isn't a black note. Once you go black, you never go back. Let's make the musical alphabet real by playing through a simple exercise. Here in Guitar Pro, we're going to play all of the notes in the chromatic scale, starting on the open low E string and finishing on the 12th fret where the notes repeat. Grab your guitar or your instrument and you can play along with me. We'll have 4 beats of count-in, and then the exercise will start. Now let's talk about enharmonic equivalents. This is a scary term, but it's really not that complicated. All that means is that you can have 2 ways to label the same note. So here we have C sharp, but that can also be thought of as D flat. Depends on if you're coming up from C, that's considered C sharp, so if you're ascending. If you're descending or coming down from D, you can think of that note as D flat. Now we're going to play all the way from the 12th fret on the guitar low E string to the open low E string. And now I've labeled the notes with flats instead of sharps. But we're not changing what we actually play. Are you ready? 4 beats and let's go. Okay, are you breaking a mental sweat with your mind yet? Level 2, when it comes to music theory, is intervals. Now, what is an interval? Well, it's simply the distance between 2 notes. This is an interval. This is not an interval because it has more than 2 notes. Best way to learn intervals is to associate each one with a popular song. The minor second is the first interval that we have. That is the smallest distance possible, 1/2 step on the guitar. Metallica's Wherever I May Roam contains a minor second. Next we have the major second interval. Sounds like this. This is the distance of 2 half steps, and the song that we can use to remember this one is Breaking the Law by Judas Priest. Next up is the minor third. This one's very important because it defines minor chord tonality. Sounds like this. And here we have the distance of 3 half steps. Iron Man by Black Sabbath uses the minor third. major third is next and is the foundation of major chords with 4 half steps. Sounds like that. Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden uses this interval. The perfect fourth interval sounds like this, from C to F. You can think of that as Here Comes the Bride, or a much cooler option would be Fear of the Dark by Iron Maiden. Tritone Diabolos in Musica contains 6 half steps from C to F sharp. You play that 3 times and you get the number 6, 6, 6. Black Sabbath's Black Sabbath uses this interval. Everyone loves the perfect fifth from C to G. It creates stability in major chords. Star Wars uses this interval. Oh, Shred, my brain hurts. Hang in there. We're almost done with intervals. The minor sixth is so cool. It's got that sad sound, and Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne uses this interval. The major sixth is from C to A, and it sounds like that. It's a very happy sound. Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson. Minor seventh interval is from C to B flat, an absolutely magical sound. Man in the Box by Alice in Chains. Major seventh is from C to B, cringing, delightful dissonance. Think of Take On Me by Aha. We've completed our intervallic journey and arrived back at the octave, C to C, 12 half steps. Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song uses this. You've earned a much-deserved brain break. This segment is sponsored by Patreon, where you can get all of my tabs, courses, lessons, and Discord access. Now let's hit some push-ups. Time to move on to level 3 of music theory, which is scales and modes. Now, in this segment, we're going to talk about the primary scales that you need to know and what the hell is a mode. Truth is, scales are just a series of intervals that connect an octave. One of the most common scales you'll hear is the blues scale. Sounds like this. Think of Metallica's Sad But True to hear this scale in action. One of the most crucial scales to understand and to get under your fingertips is the minor scale. Try queuing up a drone or sustained pitch and play the notes slowly as you soak in the emotional quality of each pitch. I always cry when I play minor scales. A harmonic minor scale is just like the minor scale, but with a raised 7th degree. Here it comes. It's very classical sounding. A good example is Metallica's Orion. As much as I despise it, we gotta talk about the major scale. This is the cornerstone of all Western music. If you can grasp the major scale, you'll understand all of the modes. Tom Petty's Free Falling uses the major scale. Modes cause a tremendous amount of confusion in the music theory space, but they're really not that complicated. For starters, the C Ionian mode is exactly the same thing as the C major scale. For an example, here's U2's With or Without You. One of my favorite modes is the magical Dorian mode. And when we talk about modes, what's really going on is we're playing a scale within a scale. So if you think about C Ionian or C major, all a mode is when you start on a different degree of that same scale. So Dorian doesn't change any of the notes. It just starts on degree number 2. So if this is C major, Dorian doesn't start on degree 1, it starts on degree 2, and it plays the same notes. So if we go to Phrygian, start on the 3rd degree, but play the same notes in C major. Lydian, start on the 4th degree, play the same notes as C major. That's all a mode is. I love the chord in Shine On You Crazy Diamond by Pink Floyd because it's a perfect snapshot of the Dorian mode. Feeling crazy up in here. E Phrygian is the 3rd mode of the major scale. Sounds like this. Very haunting. Megadeth's Symphony of Destruction is a perfect example. F Lydian is pure magic. Listen to this. Gorgeous. It's a great alternative to the major scale. If you're sick of all the happiness, enjoy. Tom Petty's Here Comes My Girl actually uses the Lydian mode. Here we go. The G Mixolydian scale is the official mode of classic rock. It's all about having a good time. Here's how it sounds. And AC/DC's Thunderstruck uses this. The iconic Aeolian mode is next, and this is just the exact same thing as the minor scale. Of course, the Aeolian mode is used in Metallica's song 1. The B Locrian mode is creepy as hell. Check this out. Ah, just pure evil. This is incredible. Judas Priest's Painkiller uses the Locrian mode. Level 4 in our music theory journey is chords. Now, chords are my favorite aspect of music theory because they contain more emotional data than any other aspect. And what is a chord? Well, it's not an interval, it's not 2 notes, it's 3 or more notes at a time. A good way to get started with chords is to learn a major chord that I have highlighted here. So that is C, E, and G, and we refer to those pitches as the 1, 3, and the 5. Here are all those notes played together, and you get C major, C, E, and G. Flat the 3rd degree, or the middle note, to get a minor chord, so from C major to C minor. To make a diminished chord, take a minor chord and flat the 5th, or lower it 1/2 step. And finally, you can make an augmented chord by taking a major chord and raising the 5th 1/2 step. Those are the 4 types of triads. So the next thing to look at when it comes to chords is chords within a key, which is what I have highlighted right here. And this is probably the most important concept to learn if you're interested in writing songs. So we have C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C. The way these chords are constructed is by taking the 1, 3, 5, starting on each degree of the scale. So that's the 1st degree of the scale, D is the 2nd degree, and then you take the 1, 3, 5 of D, and you get D minor, and so on and so forth. Now, Lord knows you've earned a much needed brain break. Get all of my tabs, courses, Discord access at Patreon, link in description below. Do some side laterals for those shoulders. Level 5 in music theory is the circle of death, aka the circle of fifths. Now you can see that right here in this diagram, and the way it works is simple. This is how we categorize all of the musical keys that we use in songs. And it starts here at 12 o'clock on the circle with the key of C. The key of C has no sharps or flats, thank God. The smaller key below represents the relative minor. So C major and A minor contain the same notes. And the way that you find the relative minor from the major is to go down a minor third from the root. So if we're on the note C, we're in the C major scale, go down 3 frets, 1, 2, 3. And you'll be at the minor or the relative minor key. Now, it's called the circle of fifths because there's a fifth in between each key. So from C to G is a fifth. C, D, E, F, and G. And it keeps going in that succession clockwise. So from G to D is another fifth. D to A is another fifth. And each key, starting with G, has sharps. So G contains 1 sharp, F sharp, and all of these successive sharps that are added, there's 1 sharp added as you go around the circle clockwise, is also a fifth apart. So this is starting to make more sense, hopefully, why it's called the circle of fifths. In key of G major, we have 1 sharp, F sharp right there. And then when you go to D, you add another sharp, a fifth apart. So D major has F sharp right there, but it also has C sharp, F sharp, and C sharp. When you go to the key of A, you add a third sharp, which is a fifth apart from the last sharp in the previous key, C sharp. So now you have F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp in the key of A. Why would we torment ourselves with this thing? Well, like I said, all songs use this. Every song that you've ever heard is contained within a key. And the only other thing that you need to know when it comes to the circle of fifths is when you go counterclockwise around the circle, everything is a fifth inverted or a fourth. So from C to F is a fourth. C, D, E, F. F stands for fuck, my life, music theory is hard. Metallica's Wherever I May Roam is in the key of C or E Phrygian to be more exact. Let's see what else. Crazy Train by Ozzy is in the key of F sharp. And Fear of the Dark by Iron Maiden is in the key of D minor. Now, if this feels like a lot of information and you're not really soaking it in, check out my Patreon page. I go into way more depth. I've got hours and hours of course content that go deep into music theory. Level 6 of music theory, we're going to get into melody. Now, a melody is a series of single notes that sounds like a vocal line. And the worst melody I can think of is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. It really sucks, but the good news is that it's simple and easy to understand. Sounds like this. Now is where things get really fun, because harmony is when you put notes behind a melody and give it an emotional depth. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star could be really boring. Use the regular chords like C and G and F. That'd be the standard way to harmonize it. Or you could get into some more interesting ideas like using modal harmony, which is what I did here. So here I've got an F major and a G chord. So here's how that sounds. Even something as boring and vanilla as Twinkle Twinkle Little Star can be very exotic or interesting with the right harmonization or chords. Now let's give that brain a break. This segment is sponsored by Patreon. Check out my link below in the description. You can join for free to get all of my tabs and courses. Now let's get those guns jacked and hit some curls. Talk about level 8, which is rhythm. Rhythm is just the space in between the notes. And here before me, I have some primary rhythms that you have to get down. It's really not that many. So you have a whole note, you have a half note, which gets 2 beats, the whole note gets 4, quarter note gets 1 beat, eighth note is 2 notes played per beat, and the 16th note is 4 notes played per beat. Now, congratulations, because you have made it to the last level of music theory, which is level 9. And this is where most guitarists quit. I'm talking about how to read music. Now, why would you want to learn to read music is the question, right? And the answer is to absorb ideas within music, especially ideas that are outside of the guitar repertoire. A lot more musical data that's in standard notation. Rhythm for one, if you don't know a song already, then you're not going to be able to play it accurately in time with tabs. Standard notation includes dynamics. You get used to seeing shapes of scales, intervals, chords. Musical structure becomes a lot more accessible to you. Musical keys, you can see what key something is going to be in instead of just having to guess at the numbers and the frets. You can see how melody, harmony, and rhythm all function together and support one another. Now, the good news is it's not that hard to learn how to read music. So you start on the bottom here with the lines on the spaces. And there's an acronym that you can remember here. Every good boy deserves fudge. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it does work to remember the notes. So you have an E on the lowest line, middle line is G, B, D, and F, which stands for fudge. Now the spaces on the staff are F, A, C, and E. This is F, this is A, that's C, and that's E. And you can remember that by just thinking face. So the notes on the spaces there spell the word face. Now that, of course, is a lot of information to absorb all at once. So what you want to do is practice with reading exercises. So I've included one simple exercise here that we can read through. Before you read a piece of music, you want to gather the main idea. Look at the general shape. Where does it start? Okay, it starts on E, at the bottom of the staff. What's the highest note that we get to? C, up there. Okay, good to know. And then everything else is going to fall in between those two extremes. Also, look at the rhythm. What kind of rhythms do we have? We have almost all quarter notes except for 2 half notes. When you feel ready, go ahead and start a metronome so that you have a reference to time and give it a shot. Way cooler version of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, don't you think? So there are the 9 levels of music theory. I had to go through that pretty quickly. So if you want to go into more depth, hit the link in the description below and check out my Patreon page. News is that there's a 1-week free trial. So you can get access to all of my good stuff there and see if you like it. I'm constantly creating new masterclasses. Right now, I'm doing like 3 a week. So if you want to blow up your chops in 2024, now is the time. Shred till you're dead.